Free Praxis 5435 practice test walkthrough preparation quiz. Question 1. A student is studying the internal structure of the Earth and learns about the crust, mantle, outer core, and inner core. The teacher explains that seismic waves have been crucial in helping scientists understand these layers. P waves, or primary waves, can travel through both solids and liquids. S waves, or secondary waves, can only travel through solids. Seismographs around the world detect P waves from an earthquake, but S waves are not detected in a specific shadow zone on the opposite side of the Earth. Which of the following conclusions about Earth's interior is best supported by this observation? Is it? Option A. The Earth's core is entirely solid, which blocks the transmission of S waves, creating the observed shadow zone. B. Part of the Earth's core, the outer core, must be liquid, because S waves cannot travel through liquids and are therefore not detected in the shadow zone. C. The Earth's mantle is completely liquid, which is why S waves are able to pass through it but are slowed down significantly. Or D. The Earth's crust is too thin and fractured for S waves to travel through effectively, which is why they are not detected on the opposite side. The correct answer is B. This question demonstrates how scientific inferences are made from indirect evidence. The key observation is that S waves are not detected in certain areas, known as the S-wave shadow zone, on the side of the Earth opposite an earthquake. Since S waves cannot travel through liquids, this indicates that there must be a region within the Earth that is liquid and through which S waves cannot pass. This region is identified as the outer core. P waves do travel through the outer core but are refracted, creating their own shadow zone as well. The inner core, by contrast, is solid. Option A is incorrect because a solid core would transmit S waves. Option B correctly identifies the liquid outer core. Option C is incorrect. The mantle is solid rock, though it can flow plastically over very long timescales. Option D is incorrect. The crust is not the cause of the deep S-wave shadow zone. This is a classic example of how geologists use seismic wave data to map Earth's interior. Question 2. A group of students is conducting an experiment to investigate the effect of light intensity on the rate of photosynthesis in aquatic plants. They place sprigs of Elodea in test tubes filled with water and a small amount of sodium bicarbonate to provide carbon dioxide. They position the test tubes at different distances from a light source to vary light intensity: 10 centimeters, 20 centimeters, 30 centimeters, and 40 centimeters. They count the number of oxygen bubbles released per minute as a measure of the photosynthesis rate. Their results show that the bubble rate decreases as the distance increases. However, one student observes that the temperature of the water might also be affected by the distance from the light source, with the closer tubes being warmer. Which of the following modifications to the experimental design would best address this potential confounding variable? Is it? Option A. Place all test tubes at the same distance from the light source and vary the light intensity by using light bulbs of different wattages instead. B. Place the test tubes in a water bath maintained at a constant temperature to ensure that any differences in the bubble rate are due to light intensity alone and not temperature. C. Conduct the entire experiment in a dark room and use only artificial light, eliminating any variation from natural light sources. Or D. Measure the temperature of each test tube during the experiment and use statistical methods to correct for temperature differences after the fact. The correct answer is B. This question addresses the critical concept of controlling for confounding variables in experimental design. The student correctly identifies that temperature could be a confounding variable because it may vary with distance from the light source and is also known to affect the rate of photosynthesis. The ideal way to control for this is to hold the temperature constant across all experimental conditions. Option A changes how light intensity is varied but does not control temperature, so the problem remains. Option B, using a constant temperature water bath, is the best solution because it directly controls the confounding variable by keeping the temperature identical for all test tubes, allowing the independent variable to be isolated. Option C addresses light control but not temperature. Option D, measuring and statistically correcting, is a possible but less desirable approach than direct experimental control, and it requires more complex analysis. In scientific experiments, directly controlling variables is preferred over post-hoc corrections. Question 3. A student is studying the rock cycle and the three main rock types: igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. The teacher shows the student a rock sample that clearly contains fossils and has visible layers. Based on these observations, which type of rock is this most likely to be? Is it? Option A. Igneous, because the heat from cooling lava can sometimes preserve fossils in a process similar to petrification. B. Sedimentary, because these rocks form from the accumulation and cementation of sediments, including plant and animal remains, in layers over time. C. Metamorphic, because the intense heat and pressure during metamorphism can create layered structures and can also preserve fossils. Or D. It could be any of the three rock types, as fossils are occasionally found in all of them. The correct answer is B. This question tests the fundamental knowledge of how different rock types form and where fossils are typically found. Sedimentary rocks are formed from the accumulation of sediments, such as sand, silt, and organic debris, which are deposited in layers and eventually compacted and cemented together. This process of sedimentation can rapidly bury and preserve organisms, preventing decay and leading to fossil formation. The presence of visible layers or strata is also a hallmark of sedimentary rocks. Igneous rocks form from the cooling and solidification of molten magma or lava. The extreme heat would destroy any organic material. Metamorphic rocks are formed when existing rocks are subjected to high heat and pressure, a process that typically distorts or destroys any fossils present. Option B is the correct identification. Options A, C, and D are incorrect because fossils are overwhelmingly found in sedimentary rocks. Remember, we can take your Praxis 5435 exam for you remotely and undetected with 150 score guaranteed. Message us via the number in the bio. Question 4. A student is studying the human circulatory system and learns about the path of blood through the heart. The teacher asks the student to trace the path of a single red blood cell from the moment it returns to the heart from the body until it is pumped back out to the body. Which of the following sequences correctly represents this path through the heart and lungs? Is it Option A, right atrium through the tricuspid valve to the right ventricle, through the pulmonary valve to the pulmonary artery to the lungs, back via the pulmonary veins to the left atrium, through the mitral valve to the left ventricle, and through the aortic valve to the aorta to the body? B, left atrium through the mitral valve to the left ventricle, through the aortic valve to the aorta to the body, back via the vena cava to the right atrium, through the tricuspid valve to the right ventricle, and through the pulmonary valve to the lungs. C, right ventricle through the pulmonary valve to the lungs, back to the right atrium, through the tricuspid valve to the left atrium, through the mitral valve to the left ventricle and out the aorta. Or D, right atrium directly to the left atrium through the interatrial septum, then to the left ventricle and out to the body bypassing the lungs. The correct answer is A. This question tests knowledge of cardiac anatomy and the pulmonary and systemic circulation pathways. Deoxygenated blood returns from the body through the superior and inferior vena cava and enters the right atrium. From there, it passes through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. The right ventricle pumps the blood through the pulmonary valve into the pulmonary artery, which carries it to the lungs for oxygenation. Oxygenated blood returns from the lungs via the pulmonary veins and enters the left atrium. It then passes through the mitral or bicuspid valve into the left ventricle. The powerful left ventricle pumps the blood through the aortic valve into the aorta, from which it is distributed to the rest of the body. Option A correctly lists this entire sequence. The other options present various errors in the order of chambers, valves, or vessels. Question 5. A student is studying the classification of living organisms and learns about the three-domain system: bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. The student is observing a sample of microorganisms taken from the human gut. The organisms have no nucleus, and subsequent chemical analysis reveals that their cell walls contain a unique polymer called peptidoglycan. To which domain do these microorganisms most likely belong? Is it Option A, archaea, because they are living in the human gut, which is an extreme environment compared to the outside world. B, bacteria, because the presence of peptidoglycan in their cell walls is a defining characteristic of the domain bacteria. C, eukarya, because they are living in close association with a human host, which is a characteristic of many eukaryotic symbionts. Or D, it is impossible to say without genetic sequencing, as both bacteria and archaea are prokaryotes and cannot be distinguished by the presence or absence of a nucleus alone. The correct answer is B. This question tests the ability to distinguish between the two prokaryotic domains, bacteria and archaea, based on key biochemical differences. While both are prokaryotes, meaning they lack a membrane-bound nucleus, they have significant differences in their cell wall composition and membrane lipids. A defining feature of the domain bacteria is the presence of peptidoglycan in their cell walls. Archaea do not have peptidoglycan. They have different cell wall structures, often containing other polymers like pseudopeptidoglycan or various proteins. Option A is incorrect because the human gut is not an extreme environment in the way that archaea are known for, and the presence of peptidoglycan is the key clue. Option B correctly identifies bacteria. Option C is incorrect because the organism lacks a nucleus. Option D is incorrect. The presence or absence of peptidoglycan is a key distinguishing feature, not just genetic sequencing. How many did you score out of 5? Let us know in the comments below. Also, tell us which exam we should cover next. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe for more.